TruthSeekah and or its affiliates are not responsible for any strange phenomena that may occur during or after listening to this podcast, which may include the following: heightened senses of awareness, psychic abilities, UFO sightings, alien contact, time loss, out-of-body experiences, ringing in the ears, ESP, lucid dreaming, increased synchronicities, astral projection, telepathy, stronger intuition, levitation, miraculous healings, and or remote viewing. Please be advised to listen at your own discretion.
Won't you come and take me away? I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away? To a place to walk on troubled seas, faith to stand when I don't believe. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come and take me away. I just wanna be with you. Won't you come?
You are now locked into the TruthSeekah podcast.
Gargoyles, psychics, everything's ungodly. Dark's at it.
Streaming live at TruthSeekah.com.
She's not a Christian.
Give it up, y'all.
Your portal to the paranormal, esoteric, and all things spiritual.
She's tampering in dark's at it stuff.
And now, your host, TruthSeekah.
Yo, what's up, ladies and gentlemen? I'm your host, TruthSeekah. This is the TruthSeekah podcast, man. I'm excited, delighted to be with you guys again for another amazing episode where we cover all things spiritual. That's what we do. That's what we're going to do today. It's going to be really good, man. We're going to be talking about allegory. We're going to talk about spirituality and how to find your true self. It's going to be good. Make sure you guys stick around. I want to say a huge thank you to everybody who is tuning in with us live on all the live stream sources out there: Facebook, YouTube, Periscope, Twitch, all those pretty cool places out there where you're listening. Shout out to everybody who is listening on the podcasting apps as well after the fact. You guys rock. If you would like to join the live stream, listen, we have opened it up where you can ask questions and you can call in and all that good stuff via Patreon. So if you want to join, make sure you click the Patreon link there and join in on the live stream. You have the ability to do that as well. Yeah, if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/TruthSeekah. There you get access to my entire discography of music, 200 plus songs, all the new stuff that I'm working on. And you also get access to our Thursday night School of the Mystics, which is the community aspect to what we're building here. We do live stream and type in a guided meditation, breath work, prayer, all that good stuff, man. Really coming together as a global community. And so all this that I'm bringing to the table is not possible without your help and without your support. So thank you for partnering with me and believing in the vision. Patreon.com/TruthSeekah. You can go to TruthSeekah.com, check out my book, Spirit Realm. If you haven't, you can get a physical copy there, or you can also get the Audible version for absolutely free. There's a link in the description and on my website as well. Make sure you check that out. Without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into today's conversation. My guest today is Mr. Daniel Levin. Daniel, welcome to the TruthSeekah podcast, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Derek. So good. I love all the things you're doing. What a beautiful work you have in front of you.
Thank you so much, man. And, the feeling's mutual. You have a lot of stuff you bring to the table as well. And we're going to explore that today. And I'm excited to do so, man.
I look forward to it.
So I guess we can get started just kind of giving people a little bit of background about, who you are, what you bring to the table. We can start there.
It's a simple question without a simple answer, but I've lived a lot of different lifetimes in this lifetime. And so it's always hard to know exactly where to plug in.
Yeah.
Especially when we've lived a lot of different lifetimes outside of this lifetime as well. But let's see if I can start here. I've had the opportunity through my life to sit with some of the richest people in the world, not in lecture halls or in seminars that they were giving, but at their dining room tables. I've played on the floor with their children and I've met their parents. I've gotten the chance to be given counsel by them, and even often more so, they've asked counsel for me in things they were doing, which was really, I was so humbled by it. I've had the opportunity also to be with some of the most inspiring people in the world. I worked at Hay House, a self-help publishing company. I was the director of business development, and during my time there, it grew from $3 million a year to $100 million a year. So it was a huge growth over a 10-year period of time. And a lot of the authors that I brought to Hay House, or a lot of the people that we met, everybody looked up to them and pedestaled them, so they couldn't be themselves with them. I was the one person, or one of the people, that just saw them as real people.
Yeah.
And they came to me and sometimes cried in the room with me, or sometimes would tell me their troubles, or sometimes would tell me what was going on in their life. And so often I would say to them, you wrote a book that's touching millions of people. I think it would be good for you to read the book you wrote. Just again, because so often the books we write are the things we most need to learn, not the things we know. But Derek, I've also had the opportunity to sit on street corners with the poorest of the poor. I've sat on their cardboard boxes in the cold of night and shared dinner with them also. And though the dinner is at the richest of the people that I knew, and the dinner with the poorest of the people I knew, the ambiance, the food, the everything was quite different. The feeling was always the same. And what I realized is that every single person that I've ever met wants the same thing. It doesn't matter how much money they make, what religion they practice or don't practice, what color their skin, what border they live behind, what reservation they live on, or what country they live in. They want to be loved and accepted, listened to and heard, and acknowledged and validated. And when I realized I could do that for people, my life changed. It didn't matter that I was a monk for 10 years. It didn't matter that I was one day away from being ordained as a rabbi. It didn't matter that I studied psychology. All that mattered is that I cared enough about people to ask them a very simple question to start out the process, which is, how are you? Today, how are you is like a salutation. It's, hi, how are you? And people say good, fine, great. And we go on as if that's the answer to those questions. But when you actually say, hey, no, hold it, I'm really interested in hearing about you. I really want to know who you are and how you're doing. Like we got a lot of stuff going down in our country right now and around the world. How are you really doing with it all? Good, fine, great disappears in a moment.
Yeah.
And suddenly they say, boy, I'm a little scared, or I don't know what to do, or I've never experienced something like this before. And when you open the door to real conversation and people feel safe, suddenly all the defenses that they have, all the walls that they've put around themselves, they realize they don't need in this conversation. And they drop it. And people for sometimes see themselves for the first time as they actually are. They've carried those walls around so much that they often don't even realize that those walls are not who they are. They've grown to believe that those walls are who they are. And when they see themselves, it's this miraculous moment where we see each other and we actually, that saying, into me see is intimacy. Mm-hmm. But with the walls around us, what most people do is my silo meets your silo, and we think we're connected. Well, we're not connected because we're both hiding behind those walls. When we take those down and we allow people to see into me, then there's real intimacy. So that's really who I am and what I do. It's the best definition I guess I could have.
That's good. Just unpacking it a little bit. What were some of the reasons, or what was the main reason why you were about to be ordained as a rabbi, and then the day before you choose to live as a monk?
Yeah, crazy. How
does that happen?
I still am wondering, my friend. But actually, what happened is I dropped out of college at 18. I had studied 2 years in psychology and gotten all the courses I needed for an undergraduate degree in psychology. And I decided that wasn't the heaven that I was looking for. So I started to hitchhike around the world. I was hitchhiking en route to India when I got stopped in Israel, and by a man that I read about. He was a holy man. It said, the description of him said he's a holy man and likes people to visit him between 2 and 6 in the morning. And so I went to see him at 2 o'clock in the morning. a long story. I can tell that now, or I can tell it another time, but threw me off my course of going to India. And I decided to stay in Israel and study Judaism and for the rabbinate. But all along, I had belief systems that I didn't believe totally in Judaism. And what the Rebbe told me, which was really beautiful, and I think this is something that'll be important. It's been important for me throughout my whole life. Is problems exist at a one level, and they remain at that level. What happens is when we don't have belief in ourselves, or we don't feel good about ourselves, we look up at those problems because we put ourselves very low down. But as we grow in our understanding, as we grow in our knowledge, as we grow in our feeling of who we actually are, we rise up, and that thing that was once a mountain now looks like a molehill.
Yep.
So he said, I know you're having problems with what's going on. Just get stronger in our belief system. And the more you get strong in our belief system, the more you'll start to see that the problems that you're experiencing aren't real problems. Well, the day before my ordination, I went to him and I said, the shelf that I put all those problems on has broken, and my whole room is a mess. The problems are all over the floor. I think it's time for me to go. And I could be ordained in your name, but I wouldn't believe what you believe. And so it wouldn't be fair for me to be ordained in your name and share other beliefs that are not in sync with what you believe. So I think it's best that I just go. There are lots of stories around every one of those things that I'm saying to you, but we're limited in time. So
I understand. What are some of the things that you've held on to, though? You know, because obviously I'm sure you didn't abandon everything. There's some beautiful things about Judaism and things like that. Were there some things that just really impressed you or really opened the door for you to see deeper into your spirituality? Or was that kind of like the elementary of your faith and belief?
So I'm a storyteller, so let me tell you a story. When I went to see this rabbi between 2 and 6 in the morning, I walked in to see him. And have you ever had your arm go pins and needles and you can't move it? You literally have to pick it up with the other arm and move it.
Yeah.
Has that ever happened to you?
Oh yeah.
Okay. So when I got to the door, from the hallway to the door to the room, and he was sitting in this room with 6 guys that had beards that make mine look like, I'm just trying to grow one. When I got to the door, my whole body went pins and needles. I couldn't move my body. And I was there for what seemed to be a long time. It was probably 3 or 4 minutes, which is a long time when you're trying to make it from the doorway to a chair and you don't know what's going on and your body's numb. And I felt this was before computers were even existed. But I felt like he was literally downloading me into his system. And I felt like he knew me in those few minutes better than anybody that has ever known me. And I had come to him to get a blessing to go to India. And so finally, after a long time, the force field that he put up, I'm assuming was a force field that he put up that kept me out. He finally said, won't you come in and sit down? And I was like a racehorse at the gate. And when the gate opened, I just went. So I lunged to the chair, and he looked at me, and the guys around sort of laughed, wondering like what an awkward entrance in. But in speaking with him, what happened is he threw me out of his office. He asked me all sorts of, after all that happened, he asked me, what's my name? How long have I been in Israel? What do I want to do? Where am I going? And I looked at him, I said, I'm sorry, you know me better than anybody that's ever known me in my life. Why are you asking me such stupid, superficial questions? Like, I've come here to get a blessing to go to India, and I'd really love your blessing because I see you're a holy man, and I'd love your blessing on my trip. And he threw me out of his office. Not the way I was planning to start the trip. So I said, I'm sorry, I'm not leaving. I'm not going to do this. And he said, well, if you don't leave, we're going to leave. And he and the 6 gentlemen he was with got up and left the room. And it was like 2:30 in the morning. So I'm sitting there at 2:30 in the morning, thrown out of the office of a holy man, wondering, is this the way I'm going to start my trip? I said, I'm not leaving. At around 4:30 or 5 in the morning, it was starting to get light. And that's when they pray their morning prayers. And you need 10 Jews to say your morning prayers. And they were looking for people that were up at that time. They came into the room, they saw me, and I said, well, I don't know anything about the prayers. They said, that's okay, just sit there. He was one of the 10. So I thought, okay, now he owes me something, because I was part of this minion of people that allowed him to say his prayers. So after our prayers were done, I went back to his office, and I saw somebody. I said, will you tell the Rebbe somebody's here to see him? He walked into the room and saw me. He said, you again, and started to walk out. I said, stop. I don't understand what you're doing. Can you tell me what you're trying to show me? He said, my friend, you say you've been in Israel 9 months. You say you've seen it from north, south, east, and west. You say you've seen every parcel of this land. But I don't believe you've seen anything, because you don't know how to see. So if you go to India, the same thing will happen to you. You'll go there, you'll see everything, but you won't see anything. If you want to learn how to see, come back tomorrow. And I said, I'm leaving today to go to, I'm leaving, flying from Tel Aviv to Turkey, and then I'm going overland to India. He said, that's why I threw you out of the office. You don't have the flexibility to be able to do the things you need to do. And Rebbe, some to see what you need to see. And I left thinking, well, I do. There's nobody I have no time frame. I just have a non-refundable ticket that's $400 that if I don't have money. I didn't have any money at that point. I was working my way around to make the money to do it. I said, let's just go to the airport and see what happens. If I'm really supposed to stay here, something will happen. I got to the airport, and I'm standing in a long line. And in those years, I was flying on El Al, which is the Israeli Airlines, and security on El Al made security that we go through today look like, kindergarten. There were long lines, and I was at the back of the line, and I didn't even know if I would make my plane. And suddenly a voice from the ticket counter said, "Hey, you!" And they pointed at me. And I thought, oh no, now what's happening? And they said, come here. And I walked up, and I was in the back of the line, so people were really upset. Like, what is this guy being brought to the front of the line for? And they said, come with me into the back office. I walked into the back, and the supervisor was there. And she said, what is it you want? What are you doing here? And I said, well, it's sort of a long story. I thought I was flying out to go to Turkey, but I met somebody who wants to teach me how to see, but I have a non-refundable ticket. And so I don't know that I would really like to stay and see what he's doing for a few days, weeks, months, and see what he's talking about. But I have an unrefundable ticket, and I can't afford to lose it. She said, hold on a minute. She went to talk to somebody else. She said, your ticket's non-refundable, but I'm going to do something for you. I said, why? What are you going to do? She went into her wallet, and she took out $400 of her own money. And she said, I'm going to refund your ticket right here, because I had a dream last night and I saw you in the dream with this old Rebbe, and that scared the hell out of me. He said, if this guy comes, don't let him leave the country. And I thought, oh my God, that's crazy. And she said, just take this money, get out of here, and stay here and do whatever you got to do. But I can't let you leave the country now. So I went back to see him. And he was like just dancing and celebrating, and couldn't believe that I had come back. But it was hard not to come back. So I think the thing in a long answer as a storyteller, unfortunately, I'm a storyteller. So the long answer to your question is, it wasn't the laws and the principles and the traditions of Judaism that I remember. It was that ability that he gave me to see differently. It was that moment and the moments that followed of being able to look at a situation and see it entirely different. And that's a lot of the work that I do with people now, is we're so stuck on the way we see things. We believe the way we see things is the way the world really is, but that's just the way we see things.
Yeah.
There's 359 other degrees of seeing it that we don't even know exist.
We don't see things the way that they are. We see things the way that we are.
Beautifully. Exactly.
It's so crazy. I was just talking to someone yesterday, and I mentioned I come out of like weird Satanism, occultism stuff, like as a teenager, just getting into the spirit realm and figuring out. And I got into a really bad spot where like trying to make pacts with demons and all this kind of stuff. Real bad. I was losing my mind, going schizophrenic. got into the church, ran to Christ, and changed my life. This was in 2000, and I've been kind of walking that Christian experience ever since. And my path has gone a lot deeper since then.
Yeah.
But early on, I couldn't be around incense. I would smell incense, and it would remind me of these rituals and things that we would do to make contact with demons. I couldn't listen if I hear certain type of music that would remind me of the person I would be. I would get really afraid I'd have to leave. If people were smoking marijuana or burning sage around me, I had to get away from it. It just didn't sit right with my spirit, and I could not tolerate it. We grew up on the reservation, Indian reservation, and we would go to the Indian powwow on Thanksgiving. So we go there, of me fresh out of this occultism, witchcraft stuff. We go there, and I'm so sensitive that they're burning sage, and there's people dressed up like eagles, and they got eagle feathers on them, and they're wearing beaks,
Right.
and some people are wearing bear heads, and they're like acting like they got the spirit of that animal in them and stuff. And I'm like, as a born again Christian, I got to get out of here. This is demonic. These people are worshiping pagan deities and invoking the spirit of the trees and all this kind. I had to get out of there. So something I had seen my whole life that, you know, was just kind of heritage, now seemed like pagan, demonic stuff that I had experienced in witchcraft or whatever. Several years later, going deeper into my walk with God and with Christ and reality and consciousness, I began to have a spiritual awakening. This was at least 10 years later, maybe more. But I went back to the powwow after like being more inclusive, and God just kind of taking me on this roller coaster journey of introducing to me seeing him in everything versus just in this.
Beautiful.
And I went back to that powwow, and the planets aligned. Everything was right. The wind, the temperature was perfect. But during this spiritual awakening, I'm in tears at the powwow, seeing this beautiful spirituality that we only really get to appreciate one day a year if you come to this, to see this culture and the way that they were connected with the animals, and they were connected with the spirits of the ethers and the air, earth, air, fire, and water, and they were one with each other, and how they shared in this beautiful spirituality. And I would shake hands with different elderly Native Americans, and I could feel their energy, and they would even tell me their love for Christ and talk about the star beings in the same sentence. And so you just see like nothing changed. The only thing that changed was my consciousness and my perspective. Yeah. Through my learning, through my experiences of how I viewed something as demonic at one point, and now something so sacred and so beautiful that I wanted to embody and get back into. Now when I smell the sage and the Palo Santo and stuff like that, it invokes beautiful memories and feelings within me, you know, now. So again, the only thing that changes is the way that we see our reality in the world around us.
Yeah, I think it was Wayne Dyer that said, when we change the way we see the world we see changes.
Yep. If you change the way that you see things, the things that you see will change.
Yeah. And in essence, you just, in your own story, told the story of the mosaic, which is a story about a boy who loses his parents 2 years apart on the same day, and he asks the adults where his parents are, because he misses that feeling of unconditional love that he felt from his parents. He just was a protected, naive kid. And when they passed, he was just wondering where is that love that I felt? They just loved me for no reason.
Yeah.
And in a world that hates for no reason, there are very few of us that love for no reason. Yeah. And he missed that love for no reason. Mm-hmm. And so he set out. They told him they were in a place called heaven. So he set out in search of that place called heaven. Well, the people he met along the way were not the people that you would imagine. They weren't the ministers and the priests and the rabbis and the shamans and the holy men and women. They were a trash man and a road worker. They were a homeless man and a blind woman. They were a juice man and a waitress. And he wondered, why am I meeting these people? Like, these people are the most ordinary people in the world. What are they going to show me about heaven? But when he sat and listened to them tell him their stories, what he realized is that he didn't see anything that they really were. He just saw the superficiality of what existed on the front. And when that happened over and over and over and over and over and over and over again, he started to ask himself, I wonder what I would see if I could see what I don't see. Like I see this thing, but what I see is actually blocking me from seeing. Do you know that incredible picture they show? It's a line drawing in black and white, where one way you look at it, it's an old hag, and the other way you look at it, it's a young socialite, right?
I love that.
I mean, I do too. And what it shows is in this very same picture, either we see one thing, and when we see that thing, it blocks us from seeing the other thing. As long as we see the old hag, we can't see the socialite. And that's the way the world that we live in is. As long as we see what we see, we can't see everything else that's right in front of us. And so when he realized that he only saw what he saw, not what the world was, he looked over to his right and he saw a monk unzipping the sky. And the monk was inviting him into a parallel reality where he met the wise one, who was the keeper of the mosaic. And the wise one was arranging all the pieces of the mosaic so that people could have the experiences that they were going to have, surrounding them with what they needed in that moment to give them what they needed. And the world is so much bigger. Like, I love the story you tell, because it could have been right out of the mosaic, because one of the things that the mosaic says is nothing is as it seems. It just is not what we think it is.
Who is right, though? Probably, neither was right. Things just are, right? And we attribute different, we give things and experiences and symbols, attributes because of our experiences or what we watched on television or what someone told us, like, the current me that looked at that powwow and seen something beautiful, or the younger me, because there's people there now on both ends of the spectrum. Yeah, 100%. You're right. All that's pagan, brother. Stay away from it. No, it's beautiful. I love that culture. Who's right? Or are both right, or are both wrong? And because there's someone probably in the middle of that spectrum who has a beautiful, here a little, there a little experience as well.
I think as long as we live in a right-wrong world, we don't have it right yet. And because right and wrong assumes that we're on two sides of something. When we're in the center of something, there is no right or wrong. There only is the thing that is. Yeah. And the perceptions that we have are just perceptions that we have. Neither right nor wrong. They're just, and the more perceptions we realize, the more ways we see that we can see this world in totally different ways. And it's okay. Everybody has the right to see the world the way they want to see it. And when we can love and accept people and acknowledge and validate them and listen to them and hear them, suddenly what happens is people's defenses fall down and they start to feel safe in our presence. And that allows them to express what it is they feel. And they're neither right nor wrong. They are expressing exactly what they feel in that moment, which is only beautiful. And it doesn't matter what side you're on or what side you're on. It's only the mind that makes sides up of a world. The mosaic is the beauty of the mosaic to me, is that a fully connected piece of artwork, seen through broken eyes, sees only pieces. But the mosaic is whole. We're not separate. There is no right or wrong. There's only what is. And what is above right and wrong. Anyway, yeah. That's just an old fat guy sitting in California's philosophy.
I mean, I think it goes without saying that, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and one man's trash is another man's treasure, something that, but I'm with you though, training people or teaching people how to see. And that's the thing. I think we should be able to see all of it. I think we should be able to see the danger or the pitfalls of even our own philosophies or our own, things we believe in, instead of like putting all your chips in one basket, much like, these elections and everything that's going on right now, and thinking that we have everything figured out. But being able to see, and I once, when I had my awakening, I had a good friend of mine who, and I had been there, and this really what kind of helped me, because I had trained myself to see all the bad stuff. I can tell you where demons are. I can tell you the holes in this philosophy. I can tell you why this preacher is wrong. But it flipped in the awakening, was this, okay, let's you can tell me why they're wrong. Tell me why they're right. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Somebody I had demonized. Let's look at the good that they're bringing to people, how they are helping people cope with everyday life. Let's look at, some of the beautiful things that they're bringing to the table. And that changed my philosophy. Then I begin to look at Hinduism. Then I begin to look at the Quran and you know what I'm saying, Islam and everything, just to be really more inclusive and be able to see God in everything, because it is a piece of it there. God has hidden himself in all things and in all people. So that training of my eye really helped my spiritual awakening. But I had a good friend of mine who, he stayed there. Like, he just seen the negative in everything. I mean, you can tell him, you had a beautiful birthday. I celebrated my party and we had great. Yeah, you're one day closer to death. Yeah. You're 1 year closer to death, brother. It's like, wow, to train yourself to see the negative in everything, you can train yourself to see the beauty in all things as well.
It's so fascinating because I love your stories and I love the way you present them, because I can tell you a story that happened to me in the seminary. The Rebbe saw something in me, and he wanted me to see the world the way he thought it was. And so what he did is he walked me into this perfect room. 100 people who would walk into this room and say, "Is there anything wrong with this room?" They would say, it's perfect." 100 out of 100 would say that. He walked me into the room and he said, "You have 30 seconds to find 10 things wrong with this room." And in 30 seconds, I from his training, I found 10 things wrong with the room. And he said, "You can't." And I said, "Why was this so important to you? This room is perfect. Most people would think this room is perfect." He said, "If something is perfect, it doesn't need to change. But if something's not perfect, you need to make it perfect." But along the same lines, he also told me another story. And he said, "Danny, the problem with you is that you are too honest, but you're not truthful." I said, "I'm sorry, what does that mean?" He said, "Let me give you an example. Imagine you're out all day and you're thinking of your wife or your woman, and you're thinking about her all day long, except for 45 seconds when this beautiful woman walks by you and you can't take your eyes off of her. She's just alluring."
Yeah.
Honesty is you come home and you say to your wife, "I thought about you almost every minute of the day. I thought about you almost all day, except for 45 seconds when this woman walked by and I couldn't take my eyes off of her." What do you think your wife is going to hear? Do you think she's going to hear that you thought about her 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 15 seconds? Or do you think she's going to hear the 45 seconds that you didn't think of her? That's honesty. And but that's not truth. The truth is you thought about your woman almost every moment of the day. And that's the statement you have to say. There's moments where you didn't think about it. But when you say to your woman, "I thought about you almost every moment of the day, and I can't tell you how full I feel by the feeling of your love and my love for you," she'll hear that. You don't have to tell her about the 45 seconds. That's honesty.
I knew a couple that did that.
Yeah. And so sometimes the truth actually gets in the way of honesty.
But some people would say that you're lying. You're lying. You're not being truthful with the narrative.
Let's look at exactly that.
I mean, because people are doing that with, not to get political, but they're doing that with politics now and Trump, and looking at the good that Trump's doing, and just like, we don't care about the bad stuff,
So I think the reason that they're doing that, like, first of all, what is the honest truth of that situation with that woman? It is really much more honest to be able to say to your wife, "I thought about you 23 hours, 59 minutes, and 15 seconds than the 45 seconds that you didn't think about her." And even in those 45 seconds, you're not saying you didn't think about her. You're just saying your eye was caught by the beauty of something else walking by. That's really what you wanted to say to her. In a feeling, Can I tell you another story?
Yeah.
Okay. I've already told you I've mixed with a lot of different people in my life. And I've had the opportunity to be with some of the most inspiring, the richest, the poorest.
Yeah.
One of the people that's changed my life more than anybody that's ever existed is a woman I've never been able to have a conversation with at all. And she's my 31-year-old daughter. My daughter's developmentally delayed, and she can't speak like you and I speak. She can't have this conversation. So in 31 years, I've never been able to have a conversation with her. But that doesn't mean she didn't have anything to say.
Yeah.
There was a certain period of time, and it was about 15 years of her life. When she tried to speak and she wasn't heard, she would start to yell. Because she looked and she said, my dad's getting older, so he probably can't hear. I'm sure that's what she was thinking. He's losing his hearing. But it wasn't because of her volume. And even though she was right, my ears were going down a little bit. But it was because of the clarity of her speech that I didn't get it. But when she spoke and she wasn't understood, she would yell. When she yelled and she wasn't understood, she would have a tantrum. And the way I'm saying it now, it sounded like it happened 3 minutes like this, 2 minutes like that. 5 minutes later, she was having a tantrum. But oftentimes her time frame was different. So it could have been a day later. It could have been 5 hours later. She could have that tantrum while we were in the middle of a store or in a restaurant or in a business meeting or with people over at a friend's house or whatever. And it didn't seem like it had rhyme or reason. And when she would tantrum and she didn't get heard, she would then attack. She would come running at me and try and bite me or rip my shirt or do something to destroy something. It went on for about 15 years, Derek. And I like to believe that I'm a sensitive man who tries to understand and hear and feel people. Finally, I was sitting there one time and she was in the midst of her rage. She was running towards me to attack me. And I just said, Elisa, this isn't working anymore. We can't do this. You know that I love you more than anything in this world. You know that I would give anything to understand what you're trying to say right now. I would give anything that I had to understand these words that you're saying. I just can't understand your words. Will you try and tell me what you're trying to say to me without using words, please? She stopped dead in her tracks. The look of rage on her face turned into the smile that just melted my heart. And in perfect English, she said to me, I am Daddy. And I said, expletive deleted, what are you talking about? Like, how are you doing that? And she took her finger and put it to the side of her head. And I understood from her gesture that she was putting thoughts in my head, that she was telepathically communicating because she wasn't able to communicate clearly with her mouth. She was talking to me telepathically. And the thing is, Derek, that I had heard her, that I had felt that, but I just didn't trust it. Who believes that someone's talking to him telepathically? I didn't even know if she had the ability to think the thoughts that she was having. And I said, you little son of a gun, have you been putting thoughts in my head? And she started to laugh. And her laugh became contagious laughter, uncontrollable, contagious laughter. And the two of us sat for about 20 minutes laughing with each other. 20 minutes is a long time to laugh with a person. Beautiful, beautiful time. After that moment happened, she no longer ever yelled, tantrumed, or attacked again. She had found her way to communicate to me. She now knew that I was receptive to her putting thoughts in my head, and we would communicate that way. If that were the end of it, I would have been thrilled because that I had a relationship with my daughter that I could never have before. But Derek, I started to ask myself, I wonder if people in the world are any different than my daughter. I wonder if businesses that I work with or families that I work with or political organizations that I work with don't experience exactly the same thing. And I saw that in 100% of the cases, they were exactly alike. When they spoke and they didn't get heard, they yelled. When they yelled and they didn't get heard, they created chaos or situations to just say this. We're gonna disrupt the way things are happening. So you'll feel the way you see things. You can't see them anymore. And when that didn't work, they would attack and destroy. We're sitting now in a time period where just a few days ago, our capital was infringed upon by people who have not been heard, who don't feel like they have been heard. And when you listen to people and you hear people, you no longer need to yell, tantrum, or attack. You're just able to do, you no longer need to scream or tantrum or attack. All you need to do is just speak what you're saying. And if you're heard, people, that ends the problem of what's going on. So leave it to a 31-year-old developmentally delayed kid that I've never had been able to have a conversation with, to teach me how to do real conversation. How beautiful is that?
Yeah. He was able to see, and I guess seeing is hearing in that case as well.
Yes, see, when you're able to see other perspectives and you're able to hear people in the way they're speaking, not in the way you want them to speak.
Yeah.
When you don't have an agenda about what they need to say in order for you to love and accept them. Remember what I said when I started. My purpose now in my life is completely changed as a result of my book, The Mosaic. And that is, my purpose now is to love and accept people, to listen to people and hear them, and to acknowledge and validate them. And when that happens for people, all the defenses fall down.
Yeah.
And who they are emerges. And it's the most beautiful moment in the world.
I'm with you. Again, learning how to see the beauty in all things and the bad stuff too. Like, I think there's also a point for that. But I don't look for that. I'm looking for commonality. I'm looking for, I really am interested in why you think the way that you think, and not to change you. And I was just listening to a Jewish preacher here a few minutes ago, and he was talking about how he loves to be on the airplane next to atheists and next to women's rights activists so that he can hear them out in order to show them how they're wrong. And I'm like, that sentiment is that how you approach every conversation or every dialogue, is to figure out how I can show them the error of their way, because you think differently.
Well, it's also because
were you ever like
it's also
that?
Yeah, of course, because Judaism was a dogmatic society, and Hinduism is a dogmatic society. Christianity is a dogmatic society. So there isn't a religion that I know of that doesn't practice some dogma of some side.
Yeah.
But here's the essential ingredient for me in the process of listening. Whenever I have an agenda where I feel like I have to show you something or teach you something or help you believe something that you don't believe, I can never listen to you. It's only when I really am agendaless, where I come in and I say, I really want to know what you believe. How is it possible that you and I are looking at the same exact thing and you see it the way you see? I want to be curious about that. I really want to know how you see what you see. I don't want you to see what I see. How boring is that? In business, in life, innovation comes from being able to see things not the way we see them, but to see them in other ways. Mm-hmm. Derek, I believe in this world, everything is possible. The only reason I can't make it possible is because I don't see a way yet to do it. But if I talk to people who see the world differently from me, I increase my chances of seeing life differently and seeing just that one piece that I might be missing to actually make what was once impossible suddenly possible again. And look at the inventions that we've had in the last 100 years. People would say that's impossible. But suddenly, when we see things and open up and innovate together, we were never meant to be alone. We were never meant to do this on our own. We were meant to come together. Together, we can see things that we can never see on our own. And that means that we embrace the ideas of all people. And we see the beauty. We look at it, look at a mosaic again, just look at it. They're different colors, they're different shapes, they're different sizes. Some are whole, some are broken, some are shattered. Yeah. But nobody's trying to teach another piece what to do. It's just in coming together and holding each other, literally holding each other, that the mosaic becomes this most beautiful piece of art made from these fragments of different things. And if you think about it, in a mosaic, very rarely are the pieces agreeing on everything. They sometimes touch just corner to corner. And that means that sometimes what happens is, even though I disagree with almost everything you're saying, I agree with just this corner. And in that corner of just agreeing with you, it makes the mosaic whole again, and it makes it function. So we need to find the places where we are the same, not the places where we're different.
Mm-hmm.
And we live in a world that's trained us to see our differences and to put people down because they don't believe like we believe.
Yeah.
But it's the innovation that comes when we embrace those other beliefs and we incorporate those other beliefs into the mosaic of the world that we live in,
Yeah.
that we see opportunities where we never saw them before.
I think that it says a lot about, you want to say, spiritual awakening or consciousness, when you find people, and I found many of them on this podcast, where we've had different walks of life and they haven't experienced what I've experienced. Maybe some of the stuff sounds foreign, but we come to similar conclusions from very different paths. They say that, here's the I think these religions don't like the term that all roads or all spokes lead to the center of the wheel, that
Yes.
being God, or this love, place of love and acceptance and tolerance and all this kind of stuff. I find it very interesting when people have different backgrounds, but we come to a very, very, very similar place, and they're just like an extension of you. I mean, the only thing that changes is the terminology, but as far as the love and the consciousness and the awareness and even a lot of the spiritual practice, if any, you know what I'm saying, is similar, regardless of religion, race, or creed. I think that's really interesting that when people get kind of tempered by the world and going through these similar experiences in life. Obviously, you talk about the mosaic and the allegories and things like that within it, and the alchemist is very similar to that, and people end up at this similar place of, I'm okay with the way that, where I am right now, the now moment, no matter what that is, and I appreciate. Yeah. I'm not a victim anymore. There's so much that, we can go on and on and on about these different truths that we arrive at towards the center of the wheel.
Yeah. And here's what I love. How is it possible that in under an hour, I meet a person that I've never seen, I never even knew you existed 10 minutes before we got on this call, that we could have such resonance, that we could believe so similarly, that we could find so much simpatico in who you are and the stories you tell, which are different than the stories that I tell, which are different experiences, but they're saying underneath this experience of what you're saying is the experience of commonality that we all hold together. And we just need to go deeper. One of the pains that I have, the biggest pains that I have, are the pains that we don't know ourselves as a people. And the more that we get to know ourselves, the more we come to the hub of our wheel. And we realize that everything that we do is just spokes on the wheel. Our practice, our spirituality, they're just spokes on the wheel. The hub of the wheel is who we are. And when we understand that who we are is that hub of the wheel, all of a sudden everybody becomes a part of everybody's welcome into that hub, because that hub embraces us all. That was the experience the protagonist in the mosaic had when he went through, and the wise one introduced him to the mosaic. He gave him a tap on the head like that, and suddenly everything. There was no past, present, and future. There was no you. There was no me. There was no place where my body ended and yours began. We were a part of the same creation. And suddenly Mo, who's the protagonist in the story, said, wow, I've never experienced this before. And when he had those words broke the feeling of what was going on. And he woke up on a street corner next to a street artist who was putting together pieces of a mosaic that people would bring to him, shattered pieces of things that they no longer needed. And he was making these mosaics on the floor. And he looked at Mo and he said, when you look at these pieces, what do you see, Mo? Most people only see broken pieces. And he said, I'm afraid I see broken pieces too. And he said, the street artist said to him, really? From the experience you just had of seeing the totality of the world as one, you look at these pieces and you see broken pieces? And Mo said, no, I don't see that at all. I just didn't know that you knew where I came from here. He said, well, what do you think? You woke up on, all of a sudden you were here sleeping on the street corner next to me and you weren't here 3 minutes ago. Like, what do you think happened? And when we see beyond what we see, when we see that nothing is as it seems, when we understand that we are a part of something much greater than what we think we're a part of. We think that we are a part of this spiritual group or this religion or this Wicca or whatever it is we believe, and we think we're the shit for being that. You know, but that's only, we're one spoke on a wheel. And it's okay if we believe it's the only spoke on the wheel. That's fine. Behind that, nobody cares, because behind that, the wheel has many spokes.
Yeah. It's interesting. I mean, you know, we're not, I guess with that mindset of being that not all paths lead to the center, we're not a spoke going to the center. We are the center, like you're saying. You know, we are already it. Center. Maybe the center working out from it. We are already connected or a piece of God. And then people would say, you know, and they would, you know, the religious people who come on here would say, okay, TruthSeekah, are you saying that all paths lead to God? Listen, I don't know. I haven't walked all paths. I've walked my path, and I can tell you my experiences with, you know, a faith or a religion or a belief system, and I can tell you where it got me. But even that is subjective. You know, whatever that is, you can find stuff online, people who are for or against it, you know.
I was just speaking with someone the other day who has been a New Age person her whole life. And suddenly she had an experience of Christ, and she realized that she can't do the New Age thing anymore. Yeah. And that she has to follow Christ. And it scared her a little bit, but she was so in love, and the feeling was so real that she put away all her things that were from her New Age life. Crystals. And she said all this time, all her crystals and all her cards and all her things like that. And she was talking to me because it's someone I've been mentoring. And she said to me, it just feels so like I was going nowhere before, and now I feel like I'm going somewhere. I said, well, you weren't going nowhere, because where you were going led you here. Yeah. And so all paths do lead to God. They just might be that you change paths along the way to get to the path that's actually the one that will take you there. So nothing that we've done is bad. What we've done, even your stuff with Wicca, brought you to a place where you now experience Christ, right? So how do you know if that wasn't exactly the steps that you needed to take in order to get to where you were? It's all bigger than we can even imagine. Yeah.
It's all part of it.
It's all part of it.
It's the beauty in the blueprint. You know, it's now seeing I love it because it's contrast. Yeah. You know, it's the contrast of being at rock bottom to being in heavenly bliss, you know, both. Yeah. And I'm sure there's to even think that either one was even the bottom of bottoms, right? Or the top of tops that you've experienced and encountered. There's more, I believe that. But for us, now it allows us to see that things are not just black and white. There's many gradients in between of shades of gray and gradients of colors even that we're able to see and train ourselves to see because of those experiences, whether it is through life experiences or faith, or, you know, even on the financial system. You know, we're talking about being friends with millionaires and being friends with homeless people. Like, that is very interesting to me as well, because I now have those friends who literally are homeless and they want to hang out and have a beer and talk about whatever. They'll talk God, they'll talk spirituality, they'll talk problems, whatever, and their experience is valid and they have wisdom to bring to the table. But then I have the other friends who, you know, own private jets and yachts and many houses, and they're millionaires literally, and they'll hang out and have a beer, and they're just regular individuals as well. And we project onto those people, you know, and these ideas of what a homeless person is or what a millionaire is. And I've had to get over both of those false ideas, you know, but we're dealing, like you said, with people. and to hear their stories, and just to see them, not see the stuff on the outside, but to see the individual.
Can I share with you a story that I one more story?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So another person that was had significant impact in my life was not one of the billionaires that I met or people or inspirational people. It was a homeless man on a street corner in San Diego. I was walking downtown in San Diego, and for some reason I felt compelled to walk over to this guy sitting on the street corner. And I don't know what the intersection's called where the pavement meets the building, but he was sitting in that intersection where he was on the pavement, back up against it. I came up to him and he said, no, you can't come here. This is my spot. This is the only thing I have in the world. Don't come here. This is my spot. This is my area. Please, you're not welcome here. And I said, there's not a chance in hell I'm going to go anywhere. I just want to take a few minutes and get to know you a little bit. And he said, I can't afford for you to do that. I make money here. And if you're here, I'm not going to make any money. I'm not going to be able to get anything. So I make money here. So I said, how much do you make in a half an hour? And he said, I make $5 a half an hour, $10 an hour. And I'm sitting here probably 16 hours a day. I make $160 a day. I have to take care of other homeless people that aren't as successful as I am. So I need to do it. You can't interrupt that. So I said, hold on a minute. And I took out my wallet and I looked in my wallet and I saw I had $50. And I gave him $50. I said, this will cover for a half an hour then, so you don't have to worry about making money, but keep your hat out. I think we'll make more money sitting together than you think we will. And he said, you're strange. You can sit down. What's so important to you that you want to know? And it took me a little while just to break down because his defenses. And I said to him, finally, I said, Corey, you sit on the street corner and you see thousands of people pass you every day. If you could stop them and just say something to them all at once, what would you say to them? What would you want to share with them? And he said, I would tell them to do what you're doing. I would tell them to take 10 minutes out of the course of their life and just spend time with someone they don't know and ask them how they're doing. And I said, Corey, that's beautiful, but why of all the things you could ask for, would you ask for that? Why would that be the thing that you want more than anything else? He said, you've told me a lot of stories. Let me tell you one. He said, Danny, I hate being homeless. I'm embarrassed and ashamed of myself. I can't believe my life has led me to this place. But I try and make the best of it. But people treat me like I'm a thing. They don't treat me like I'm a human being. They don't even treat me like I'm an animal. They treat me like I'm something that they can just kick or beat. And he said, I was sitting here one day and some boys were walking up, and I was just thinking, I want to be positive. I went, hi boys, how you doing? And they came up and they kicked me and beat me and left me here. I didn't know if I was going to make it through the night. I felt like they just beat the heck out of me. And other people will come by and they'll spit at me, or they'll yell curse words at me, or they'll tell me what a piece of trash I am. Some people will walk by and just kick me and steal my money. He said, but one night I was just sleeping. I was just exhausted. And I was woken by a man urinating on me. And I thought, that's it. Enough's enough. And he said, Danny, you don't know it, but the street right behind us is a dark street. Nobody walks that street. They all walk this street. And I decided that evening I was going to go when it got dark, and I was going to take my life on that street where nobody walks. And not 2 minutes later, a man came up to me and put his hand on my shoulder. He was wearing a 3-piece suit. And he said, how you doing, brother? And I said to him, it's not a good time, sir. Don't talk to me. You just keep going. You don't want to get involved in this. I'm not doing good. Keep walking, please, sir. Just keep walking. And the man said exactly what you said when I said that to you. He said, there's not a chance in hell I'm going to do that. I'm going to sit here with you and take a few minutes to see how you're doing. And he sat down next to me. And I don't know if it was because he was in the 3-piece suit and I thought he was important, and I was so totally unimportant, and I was about to take my life. But I started crying on his shoulder. And then I started telling him all the things that were going on and all the things that I was feeling. He said, Danny, it only took about 10 minutes. And after that 10 minutes, I realized I couldn't kill myself that evening because someone who was important in a 3-piece suit that spent 10 minutes of their time just being with me. He didn't try and help me. He didn't try and fix me. He didn't try and change me. He didn't try and give me a meal. He didn't try and find me a place to stay. All he did was he just listened to me. And I felt heard by him.
Yeah.
And I wish I could have found him. I tried looking for him, but I wish I could have found him. I wish he would have come by, because he doesn't know, to this day, he doesn't know that he saved my life that day. Well, there's a thing called the butterfly effect. And Corey doesn't know that his story touched me so much that on every podcast that I've been on every talk that I give, on every boardroom that I go into, in every group that I'm in, I try and find a way to share Corey's story. And I'd like to invite the people who are listening to this podcast to go into their heart and see if they can find 10 minutes out of the course of their life to go up to someone they don't know and just ask them how they're doing. You don't need to fix them, change them, help them, or do anything else. All you need to do is just love them and care about them enough to try and find out how they're doing. Corey, I wish I could tell Corey. I went back to look for him. I wish I could tell him that there are by now millions of people that have heard his request to spend 10 minutes out of the course of their life to go up and touch somebody and ask them how they're doing. But I haven't been able to find him. He's not on that same street corner anymore. I don't even know if he's still alive. But in honor of Corey, I ask people who are listening, take a few minutes and just be with somebody you don't know and ask them how they're doing.
It's good.
We think that these homeless people, or we think that people that we pass by that we don't think have anything significant to tell us. Again, if we would just spend a few minutes with them, they could change our lives.
I'm with it. I got a audio clip I want to play you, a little short clip. Really rings true to that too, and I really love this individual and his thoughts. But it brings tears to my eyes to hear this clip, and I'll set it up. But I just want to let anybody know, if y'all have questions, you want to join the stream here and ask Daniel or myself a question, now's the time to do that. The link is in the description of the videos. You can join the Zoom link here and ask a question if you like. But this clip here is from someone, an artist very near and dear to my heart, Marilyn Manson. And so, you know, everything that went on, I was a diehard Manson fan back in the 90s in high school, and when everything that happened with Columbine and the shootings at Columbine, and he got blamed for all that. He's a shock rocker. It was easy for people to blame him, and you know, challenging the status quo, challenging religion, free thinking, you know, and putting on a heck of a stage show to do so. Religious groups would protest his concerts, and he would be banned from different cities and things like that. But all that happened with Columbine. And this is a short clip from the Bowling for Columbine documentary that came out. And it's pretty profound what he says here, but I'm going to play this clip. I want you to hear it. But it definitely ties into what you just said. But check it out.
When I was a kid growing up, music was the escape. That's the only thing that had no judgments. You know, you can put on a record and it's not going to yell at you for dressing the way you do. It's going to make you feel better about it.
Mm-hmm. Some will be so brash to ask if we believe that all who hear Manson tomorrow night will go out and commit violent acts. The answer is no. But does everybody who watches a Lexus ad go and buy a Lexus? No, but a few do.
I definitely can see why they would pick me, because I think it's easy to throw my face on a TV, because I'm, in the end, sort of a poster boy for fear. Because I represent what everyone's afraid of, because I do and say what I want.
If Marilyn Manson can walk into our town and promote hate, violence, suicide, death, drug use, and Columbine-like behavior, I can say, not without a fight you can't.
The two byproducts of that whole tragedy were violence and entertainment and gun control. And how perfect that was the two things that we were going to talk about with the upcoming election. And also then we forgot about Monica Lewinsky, and we forgot about the president was shooting bombs overseas Yet I'm a bad guy because I've sang some rock and roll songs. And who's a bigger influence, the president or Marilyn Manson?
Do you know?
I'd like to think me, but I'm going to go with the president.
Do you know that the day that Columbine happened, the United States dropped more bombs on Kosovo than any other time during that war?
I do know that, and I think that that's really ironic, you know, that nobody said, well, maybe the president had an influence on this violent behavior. No, because that's not the way the media wants to take it and spin and turn it into fear, because then you're watching television, you're watching the news, you're being pumped full of fear. There's floods, there's AIDS, there's murder, cut to commercial, buy the Acura, buy the Colgate. If you have bad breath, they're not going to talk to you. If you got pimples, the girl's not going to fuck you. And it's just it's a campaign of fear and consumption. And that's what I think that it's all based on, is the whole idea that keep everyone afraid and they'll consume. Mm-hmm. And that's really as simple as it can be boiled down to.
Right. If you were to talk directly to the kids at Columbine or the people in that community, what would you say to them if they were here right now?
I wouldn't say a single word to them. I would listen to what they have to say, and that's what no one did.
I would listen to them and hear what they have to say, because that's what no one ever did. Just going along with the sentiment of listening to people. Yeah.
And if you think about just what happened in our country a few days ago, some people will say those are anarchists and those are people that are trying to tear down our country. But again, I think that if they are people that no one's listened to. They haven't felt heard. They haven't felt listened. So if you remember my daughter's story, speak, yell, tantrum, attack. Yeah. When they don't feel heard, that's the progression that everybody in the world goes through.
Yep.
And so if someone is at the place where they are attacking, boy, it's long overdue that we sit and say, what is it you're really trying to say? What is it you really want? What haven't we heard? Not that you hate us or you hate what's behind that. What is it that you really need to say? What would we say to our kids if we were just to be able to say, I'm willing to listen to you. Why are you so angry? What would we say to in business if someone has a dispute with us? What is it you really want? Like, what's going on? Tell me what you feel. Tell me what's actually happening. It will dissipate all this hatred, all this shame, all this stuff that's coming at us. It would dissipate in moments if people just felt listened to. Because when my daughter was tantruming and attacking, she wasn't trying to be heard anymore. She was just frustrated that she wasn't heard.
Yeah.
Right?
It's deep. Yeah, and it's about being proactive with this stuff instead of responding to the backlash of, a city that is devastated, or a family that is devastated, or, working off of the reactions versus being proactive and doing this, and obviously learning from your mistakes.
Yeah.
And, admitting that you were wrong, or admitting that you could have done things better. And I think that's how we really do progress. And like you said, those people on the left and the right, listen, the truth is somewhere in the middle.
They just need to listen to each other 100%. And I love that this revolution of listening that I'm trying to create came from a developmentally delayed kid and a homeless man. It's just so beautiful to me. It didn't come from a preacher, although it could have. It didn't come from a Swami, although it could have. But then again, the most important thing we haven't done also is we haven't even listened to ourselves. We don't know what our voice is saying. We're so caught up in the noise of the world around us that we've forgotten to hear what we're saying. So if we're not listening to ourselves, why would we listen to anybody else? We're just surrounding ourselves with silos of like-minded people who support us in what we believe because we're too scared to know what's outside of that silo.
Yeah.
But outside of that silo is this creation of innovation. Outside of that silo is where miracles happen. Outside of our comfort zone is where every good change happens. So if people want to join me in the revolution of listening, there is no charge to it. You don't have to wear your hair a certain way or grow a beard or wear certain clothes. All you have to do is what Corey said, take 10 minutes out of the course of your life and go up to someone you don't know and listen to them. Or what Manson said, in Marilyn Manson said, in that they just Listen. Just listen to each other.
Yep, because that's what no one ever did.
It's what we don't do still.
Yeah, that's good. Well, Daniel, man, I really enjoyed this conversation, and man, just the wisdom that you brought to the table, and just being able to connect with you and hear your story. And your book is The Mosaic. It is available on Amazon. You have a website if you want to go ahead and plug the website. Where's the best place for people to check out your work?
Sure, and I'm sure you'll have this in the show notes too, but it's Daniel, it's just danielbrucelevin.com. And please, if somebody wants to, if you feel unheard out there, reach out. That's what I do now. All I want to do is hear what you want to say. So if you feel unheard, or if you want to learn how to do this, I'm happy to work with you to get that to happen. But for anybody who doesn't feel heard, get in touch with me and let's have a conversation, so that you know that there's one small place in the world where someone actually will listen to what you're saying without judgment, without trying to change your belief systems, without trying to correct you or make you wrong or find fault in what you're saying, but just honestly wants to hear you and love you and accept you exactly as you are.
That's good. Thanks so much for hanging out, brother. We'll have to do it again. It was great to meet you.
I would love that. It's my honor. It's been a joy to be here with you. Thank you, brother.
All right, my brother. Many blessings. Thank you.
Mirror. Ciao.
Daniel Bruce Levin, ladies and gentlemen. His book is The Mosaic. And make sure you guys check that out. It will be linked in the show notes and on the website and all that good stuff as well. All those places. Man, so much to say when it comes to just listening and being heard. You know, what would you say? I'm telling you, like there's times, and I've heard that Manson clip a lot. I've heard it many times, and almost every time it just, you know, I hold back tears listening to that sentiment, because I was one of those individuals, and you know, there's many people out there, whether they're teenagers or adults or whatever, that you feel like nobody hears you, you know, and you're just lashing out. You're looking for a group to identify with, and that's the thing, man. People will cling to the first group. Even hate groups, man. A lot of those hate groups that people feel like they're a part of, they cling to them because they feel like they listen to them. They feel like they're heard, you know. And so it's really, really interesting to check it out, to see where people feel like they have a family, where they feel like they belong. So, you know, we got to make sure that we're creating that safe space for people to talk. And I don't, you know, when it comes to spiritual beliefs or religious beliefs, you know, that's definitely what this podcast kind of caters to, and my work and stuff. So, you know, I'm open for discussion. And many of you who have been here for a long time know that we've interviewed some really interesting people who have crazy, like unbelievable stories, you know, and they're really hard to believe. And I don't believe everyone who comes on this podcast, but I also understand that some of the things that I talk about that I've experienced are pretty unbelievable as well. So I have to show those people the same type of grace, if you will, when it comes to, you know, testimonies and believing in some of these crazy conspiracies or experiences. And so, you know, I don't believe it just because someone told me. And I know I had a friend, I don't know if he still listens, but he was a good friend, and he got offended because he was telling me some things that was happening, and it wasn't that I didn't believe him. Maybe I did. I don't know. It was hard to believe, for sure. Targeted individuals, you know, when it comes to that, and there's a lot of people into that movement who thinks that the government is putting, you know, bugs in their home or sending agents in vans to follow them down the street and stuff like that. Do I believe that those psyops and things happens? Yeah, but just you know, ordinary everyday people, not so much. You know, not so much. I don't think that there's too many reasons to, you know, use the time and the resources to put surveillance on people unless they're maybe a threat to some, you know, in some shape or form. But some of those people would feel like just because they tweeted something or they shared an Alex Jones article that they knew when they shared it that this is going to get them in trouble, and then they just start kind of putting things together. I approach all of this stuff from a spiritual perspective. So when it comes to targeted individuals, I do know what schizophrenia is. I do know, you know, that people are being watched and surveilled by entities, demonic entities that are associated with understanding and doctrines and beliefs and agendas and things like that. They're tightly knitted with those things, and that's exactly what they are. Mindsets that get into your mind and make you think that, you know, you're being followed and you're being watched by all these kind of things and stuff. So when a friend of mine, you know, came to me like that, it's like, listen, like, believing you is one thing, but you got to have like proof. Why don't you pull out your cell phone and record them? Oh, well, you know, when you pull the cell phone out, it stops working because they got a scrambler in that van that scrambles your cell phone signal. You know, you just hear these. Listen, if black helicopters are flying over your house and vans of agents are coming to your house to watch you and spy on you, like, get them on camera, man. Like, if they're coming in your house in the middle of the night and doing stuff on you, like, there's things that you could do to prove that. And you know, and I don't necessarily believe all that stuff. Could it be? For sure, 100%. That's the thing. You don't need my validation though. Your truth is your truth. If you need people to agree with you and to pat you on the back about whatever, first of all, you need to know that what you're talking about is crazy. It is weird. It's out there. And most everything we talk about on this show is crazy. It's weird. It's out there. You know, I talk about my UFO experiences, and the individual got mad because, or maybe got hurt because maybe I just expect people to believe my experiences with UFOs and aliens and demons and all of Jesus and all of this stuff. They just expect me to believe them when I didn't believe their story. And I don't expect you just to believe anything at face value. You know what I'm saying? I don't expect you to believe any story or belief or doctrine. Like, it's up to you to look it up, to move into it. I think that the interesting thing is that, you know, we get into maybe such practices and experiences that are repeatable, where you can actually find out for yourselves, whether it is CE5, whatever it is, an encounter with the divine through meditation, through plant medicines, whatever it may be. There's different ways to tap back into those things. There's a way to get back to it. And so that's the interesting thing, and that it's something that can help you, and it's something that can, you know, assist you in your life. But no, it's not. I want to see it. Like, you gotta understand the stuff that we've been told, man. People are talking about they're married to entities in another realm, like they are in romantic relationships. People have told us that on the show, and like, I don't know. Do I think that you believe it? For sure. Like, just because you believe it doesn't mean that it's true. It is true to you, but do I necessarily believe it to be true? No. Take a picture, man. Get that entity to manifest. If that entity has any power or anything, they can, you know, manifest in this realm and maybe let you take a picture or do something on camera. And I know that sounds simple or whatever, and I know it doesn't always work like that, but for us just to start believing everything that's out there, you have those people as well. So, and I would just want to make sure that I'm not that person who just, I believe that all things are possible. I believe that if you believe it, it becomes true. And I believe that it shows itself to you. It affects you consciously in the way that you see things, the way that you see people, the way that you see life. And so you essentially attract those things to you, whatever it is. So, I mean, I could totally go down that rabbit hole, and the government's after me, man. They want me to, they're going to shut down my YouTube page. They're going to do this, they're going to do that, you know, and probably I could start saying things that would trigger the algorithm and all that kind of stuff. And then guess what? I would manifest that into my reality. So you manifest a lot of this stuff, not, you know, because, you know, as a man thinketh in his heart, so shall he be. If you believe it's true, it'll be true to you. So I'm saying move beyond that negativity, move beyond the hatred and the things that are killing you or whatever, and begin to step into some of the beautiful things that we have in life, relationships, experiences, spirituality. You know, that's what I try to bring to the table. And so if I'm not, you know, feeding into the conspiracy, you know, conspiracy theory stuff, the fear agenda, which, trust me, I believe all things are possible. I'm a conspiracy theorist at heart. I told y'all that. That's why I don't get into them. I know how much it would consume me. Chris Garner in the chat says, in thousands of years, there has never been one lizard man whistleblower. That's loyalty. LOL. Yeah. Yeah, they never caught one on. Well, they say they're catching them on camera, Chris, because, you know, like when they do these speeches and stuff, their eyes will blink while they're still open. Like they have another set of eyelids beyond their human eyelids. So a lot of those guys, those guys have been exposed. That's old news, brother. The lizard men have been exposed. You know, tons of theories. As far as I'm concerned, they're all true. I've seen some weird stuff. We've heard some weird stories. So, you know, we're in interesting times. We definitely are. So it's time for me to go to where the peace is. What is peaceful? What is helping me not to freak out? Like in my mind, I think of myself like, what does it take for me not to do what those people did, you know, at the Capitol? Spirituality. Not just that, but it could be a lot worse. Any of these people that are just freaking screaming and crying in the streets and trying to, you know, make change or whatever. You know, a lot of people think they were justified. You know what I'm saying? But, you know, not that, I guess. I mean, other things. What is it, you know, what am I doing to maintain my peace? Because there's a lot of reasons not to. There's a lot of reasons to quit trying. There's a lot of reasons to give up. There's a lot of reasons to abandon ship. You know, so what am I doing that to communicate with the warlocks and witch elves, with the powers to switch realms? They got knives that'll split elks. I'm just reading some lyrics here in the chat. Shout out to you guys. I'm messing with you. Yeah, reading the chat here. Yep, Killer Priest. So make sure y'all check out the talk we did on his show. We had fun. I guess with that, man, I'm gonna say peace and shalom. I'm just rambling here at the end. I've got some other stuff I'm gonna put together here soon, and you know, we'll go deeper into some other stuff here. Want to give my opinions. I got some new music coming out for those of you who are patrons. There's some new music that I'm working on. It's very hard for me to work on music these days, but every now and then I'll get something that I like. I'll find a really good beat. That's the first thing, is to find a good beat that I resonate with, and then once I get the beat, I'll start writing the lyrics. But now I'm using all the same rhyming words from other songs. I'm writing different lyrics, but all the rhyming words are. Once I hear one word, my mind just boom, you know, you go into those rhyming schemes, and I'm just like recreating other songs. And I think that's a disservice to the art. That's a disservice to my past song that I'm stealing from. You know what I'm saying? So I don't want to do that. So it's gotten a lot harder for me to write songs, and I've been very vocal about that for the last year. That's why you haven't seen a lot of new music. Well, there's about 8 songs, I think, that have come out within the last year, but they are on Patreon. I think 2 of them are public. I'm actually waiting for a song to come up on Spotify, and as soon as it goes public on Spotify, we shot a new video for a song, and as soon as it comes up on here, I'm gonna release the video, which I don't know when that'll be. I released it over a week ago, so. But it's still not up yet. As soon as it's up, I'll have a new music video out for a new song that not many people know that I was working on. So that'll be up. It's something new for you guys. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I guess without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and jump off of here. Enjoyed it. Richie says, remember to breathe, drink water, and stay healthy. Yes, yes. Chris Garner says, peace is being lost. They just doing what the news tells them to do. Yeah, it's crazy, man. Mindless self-indulgence, man. Sheep. Sheep. David says, I have no idea how you say what you say, but I love it. And I've had amazing experiences and encounters with no words to describe. Yeah. I think there's beauty in trying to describe it, but obviously words come up short every time. You can try to describe it just like the Apostle Paul did, I think, when he talked about his experience and going to the third heavens. You know, he says he encountered things that it's not permissible for men to even speak of. Like, how do you speak of colors that have sound, and sounds that have colors, and cogs and sacred geometry that's communicating with you? Like, how do you explain that in our limited language? The only way you can do that is to set up the encounter for someone else to experience it. You begin to experience it for others. And you mentioned the CE5. You know, the CE5, I don't think it's beginning to strive. I think the CE5 is just asking. You know, you ask for a sighting, you ask for an encounter. You could be blindsided by an encounter, walking on the street and get knocked off your horse like the Apostle Paul. But I do think that many of the spiritual experiences and paranormal stuff in the Bible, a lot of them guys facilitated that stuff. Them dudes were very spiritual. And they carried themselves a certain type of way, and they had a strict diet. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that really catered to their spiritual experiences, for sure. And I think that we're no different. Chris Garner says the CIA made the term conspiracy theory, actually. And that's what they're saying now, after that one of those documentaries came out where they talked about it. And now everybody's telling us, you know, the CIA made that term. They wanted you to call it a conspiracy theory so no one would believe you. The CIA actually made it up. You know, that's their excuse when you bring up conspiracy theory. So everything's a conspiracy, man, until until maybe it becomes, second nature. But then again, it's not agreed upon by everybody, and to some people, it's conspiracy. One man's truth is another man's conspiracy. It ain't real. It ain't true. It's not a myth. The narratives, what's actually going on. What is actually going on with the government, Trump. What is actually going on? Because to me, all of them are real. They're all real. All the conspiracy theories are real. But what is that gonna, like, what are you gonna do? FEMA camps, FEMA coffins, 9/11, all this stuff. It's all real. But what you gonna do about it except freak the hell out? Nothing. You better work on yourself. Change yourself if you want to change the world. Marching ain't finna change nothing. You ain't seen the government push back yet. Richie says conspire means to breathe. Yep. Let us conspire together. Breathe. That's what I want to do. Just get together and breathe with you guys. I don't even want to talk about no experiences. I don't even want to teach nothing. I don't want to hear what you got to say. I just want to breathe with you. Sharing that conscious breath. That's what we do. Thursday nights, join us with that. It's really fun. Inspire to breathe. What 3 Heaven phase says. The Apostle Paul in the book of Romans talks about an experience where someone was caught up into the third heavens. And my belief is that is past outer space. That is like where we call the kingdom of God. Past outer space, first, second, and third heavens. And he didn't know if he took his body with him. It was so real. It was like an outer body experience. He was in this other realm, but it was so real that in the text he questions if he even took his body with him. It was like, it was so strong that I don't know if I went there in my spirit, if my spirit left my body and went, or my whole body was there. It was so real. So that's an experience in in the book of Romans, and I believe I believe he did something to facilitate that as well. I don't believe that he was just walking down the street and got pulled into this trance. That's what most Christians believe, that you know, you don't seek those things, brother. They just happen. Yeah, right. So I've been saying I'm going to get off of here. I'm getting off. Love you guys. And we'll do it again Thursday. We're going to do it again. Might come back and do another live stream. Who knows? We're having fun. It's all good. We'll see you guys soon. Peace.
Your way is so much higher than mine. So much higher than mine. So much deeper than mine. So much deeper than mine.
Well, that does it for this episode, folks. To hear more episodes of the TruthSeekah podcast, head over to TruthSeekah.com. And if you're wanting to support the show and get rewards, go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/TruthSeekah.